Anything else, Ken?
Yeah, I watched The Shooting. It's a Roger Corman produced flick from 1967 starring Jack Nicholson. He actually co-wrote it and helped produce it. It's like a $67,000 movie. It's a Western. And for the longest time, it was like this rare movie to find until Criterion basically dug it out, did a restoration, and they paired it with another movie called Chasing the Whirlwind or something. I didn't watch the other movie though. That's paired with, but that's also stars Jack Nicholson. It's a Western, and it's directed by Monty Hillman. And I was shockingly surprised at how well this Western is, and that I had never heard of it until I found the Criterion. The story is really weird and almost like the Black Mirror-ish. Like there's a twist at the end that you have no idea that it's, honestly, you have no fucking clue that this is what's going to happen at the end of this movie. And you're left, like, my wife watched it with me, and she's like, what happened? What? And I was like, I can't tell you guys what it is because it'll be spoiling the whole movie.
That sounds fucking awesome.
And it is. And the main character is Warren Oates. He's this guy who, he's mostly known for doing Westerns, and I think if you saw his face, you'd recognize him. And I was doing research, and I actually realized he's from my hometown. Like, he grew up in Muhlenberg County.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea. I don't know if you ever... He was in a lot of movies like Wild Bunch.
Man, yeah, I recognize him.
Yeah, so he's the star of that movie. And
he's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, character actor. He's done a lot of Westerns. And Jack Nicholson plays like this bounty hunter, evil guy who's really fucking creepy in this because he's never stating what exactly he's doing, but he's following these guys around. And I would highly recommend checking this movie out. If you're a Nicholson fan or if you're a Western fan or if you're a fan of Roger Corman, and the story of this movie, I think, is just as interesting, too. Like, they shot these two movies, these two Westerns, back-to-back out in Utah over the course of, I think, 3 weeks, both super low budgets. And I'm going to watch the next one soon, and I guess I'll report back on that.
I think that's awesome, because when you mentioned it's Criterion, right?
Yeah, Criterion.
I was like, they made a Criterion out of a Roger Corman film. I'm like, that's fucking great.
Yeah.
I was like, they should do that more often. Then it occurred to me, maybe they did. Maybe I just have no clue, you know?
I think they have a couple more of his flicks in there, but they should definitely do like a Roger Corman, because they've done like Eclipse series. Like, they'll focus on a certain director and they'll release like 4 or 5 of a director's early movies, like Fassbender. They've done some of his movies, Kurosawa. So they've done some like schlock type films that were really important to the history of cinema. So I wouldn't be out of the question for them to pick up like 4 or 5 Corman movies and release them as a box.
They could do it easily. And the truth is, there is like at least 3 or 4 films that are fucking great films. Like, they're not. It's not like Little Shop of Horrors where you're like, oh, that's a cultural phenomenon. But I watched a couple of them. I mean, I think maybe Pit and the Pendulum's pretty good. There was one where the guy was buried alive. I forget the name of it, but he has.
The Mask of the... Or no, that's not The Mask. I know which one you're talking about, though.
Yeah. But if he was a filmmaker and he only made those 4 or 5 great films, and he didn't produce the other 400, or he didn't direct the other 35, people will look at this guy like, God damn, this guy's great, you know? Yeah. But it's because he made all the other ones, he doesn't really get the respect that he should, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he's produced so many, like, and a ton of them are not very good at all. Some of them are just downright unwatchable.
Like the Fantastic Four one?
Yeah, I mean, he has some stinkers to his credit.
What does the thing say? What have you done to me? What have you done?
Y'all got that link I sent y'all on that one, didn't you?
Yeah. I did. Man. Yeah, that's how I watched it, yeah.
I'll have to check that
out. It's on fucking YouTube, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, he has a shit ton of stinkers to his credit. But he also has, like, the Edgar Allan Poe films
Yeah, was it Mask of the Red Death? Wasn't that
Mask
one
of the Red
his?
Death. Yeah, that's
Not of This Earth. I forgot he did that.
Yeah, so and the William Shatner one.
Intruder.
Yeah, Intruder. So he's got it. Like they could easily pick out 5 or 6 good movies of his, give it the Criterion treatment, bring a little bit more recognition to his name, because I still think he's sort of like. I mean, I know he's honored at the Oscars, but he's still sort of like this. I think as time goes on, more and more people forget about like how many careers he helped jumpstart. Nicholson was like one of the first guys that he was working with that he helped. Shatner, another guy, like he, gave him a head start. And so
Peter Lorre, Boris Karloff, these are like Vincent Price.
Yeah, Vincent Price, like helping him out. So they should could easily do a box set, and I think it would sell really well too.
Oh yeah, I mean that could be. I mean that's the amazing thing about Roger Corman. You could do a box set that was just like his awesome campy movies, and that could be like Death Race 3000, Death Race 3000. It could be I think he did David Carradine motorcycle Future Sport.
Death Race
or Death Sport. He did Death Race. Yeah, he did Death Race 2000
and then Death Sport.
Death Sport. He did Fast and Furious. He did Bucket of Blood. He did.
Actually, Bucket of Blood, I think, is a Criterion release.
That is a cool little film. He's done a couple that are almost like mini Hitchcock films. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're that cool.
I can't speak any more highly of that. The shooting. Definitely check that out. And speaking of Nicholson, like not to get too far away from the Corman thing, I actually watched the Shining documentary shot by Kubrick's daughter, and if you haven't seen it, it's a really interesting look at some of the behind the scenes stuff of the making of the movie, and seeing Jack Nicholson, like she got a lot of behind the scenes stuff, like him getting ready to go out there and do his stuff, and it's fascinating because it's a hint of a normal guy, but still a hint of like it's Jack fucking Nicholson. Of that coolness of it's Jack Nicholson, and you're catching him before he gets on camera, but he still exudes that like I say, like he's Jack Nicholson. And to see him like prep for a scene, she was shooting the behind the scenes stuff of right before he did the axe scene where he comes in through the door and here's Johnny, and just to see him get himself into character was fascinating. And then he goes into some of like the technical stuff, the Steadicam work that they done in the movie, which I believe is like one of the first movies, if not the first movie, where the Steadicam was used. And the maze and how that was pulled off, and the snow, how it was like salt, and it's just a really fascinating documentary. It's a short, like 25, 30-minute piece.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend people check that out.
People forget too about Roger Corman is that he did this movie called The Wild Angels, which was pretty much the precursor to
Easy Rider.
Easy Rider, and it was a lot of his people. And I think for a time he was actually producing Easy Rider. He eventually got cut out totally. I think pushed out.
Yeah. I forgot what it was, exactly what happened. I know he was going to do Easy Rider, and it was a lot of his people. And I think it came down to maybe the choice of using Dennis Hopper. I think it might have been the deal breaker or something. I think that's what broke up that combination, because Nicholson was going to be, I think he was the producer on it, and was working with Peter Fonda. And then they brought in Dennis Hopper, and I think Corman didn't want Dennis Hopper involved for some reason. I could be misquoting this thing, but I think that's what went down.
That was the deal. Yeah, so it's weird. People don't realize like that. That's in that movie. They give it credit for starting one wave of indie film.
Kickstarted. It really brought Nicholson. He was, I guess, the breakout star, but Dennis Hopper was also another breakout star from that. Peter Fonda was already sort of an established name.
I was looking at the movies. I'm trying to think of that movie. I was thinking of Premature Burial was that movie where Martin Scorsese actually said, he's like, if you look at that film and you didn't know it was Roger Corman, you'd think it was Hitchcock. You know what I mean? It was that kind of film, and it was really good. But yeah,
See, I'm not that familiar with a lot of his stuff. Y'all kind of got me interested at this.
well, there's
point.
just so much of it.
Yeah, it'd be hard to like if you were just to look at his IMDb and be like, okay, I'll pick one out because it's going to be great. You're probably going to miss and end up with a stinker.
Yeah,
But a
you
lot of
really
his-
got to look up his best movies. But his bad ones are great too. That's my thing. Is that the guy is like, he is a guy who could do anything, but he's not credited with it. He's only credited with a guy who's produced 400 movies that are schlocky. You know.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
so
he's-
he produced Big Bad Mama with Angie Dickinson
yeah.
and William Shatner.
I never saw that.
Oh,
I think his name probably the last 20 years of his work is probably where his name was. If you want to say it was hurt in that 20 years. Where there's a lot of there's very few hits in the last 20 years and a lot more misses.
Yeah, well, I think with the Sci-Fi Channel, but you know, they're a very specific kind of hit. But with the Sci-Fi Channel, he's had a resurgence producing, not directing. But let me name off some of his films that he's been producing over the past 10 years: Cobra Gator, Sharktopus versus Mermantula, Art of School. Okay, let's see, Fist of the Dragon, Sharktopus versus Petracuda.
What's a sharktopus?
Piranaconda.
It's a shark and an octopus.
Let's see.
Not a platypus?
Sharktopus.
It'd be cool if it was a
I
platypus.
think it would be cool.
Dino Croc versus Super Gator.
Platypus
Dino
already
shark.
is a fucked up creature, though. It's like a duck and a beaver.
Sharktopus. He didn't want to do Sharktopus. The Sci-Fi Channel is, can you make a movie called Sharktopus? He's like, that's ridiculous. That's too much. But he did it anyway, and it was like a huge hit for them.